Hey guys, welcome to Guys Talking About Sports. This is Alex.
And this is Cameron.
And today we're going to talk about some awesome sports things, which would classify as sports stuff. So I think off the bat we got to talk about our boy Bryce Harper coming to Philly, 13-year, $330 million. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen, but Manny Machado got a 10-year, $300 million deal. So Bryce Harper is going to make less average annual, but it's a bigger contract. It's for more years. He's basically got his ass covered for the rest of his playing career because it's going to take him to 39, and unless he's one of those rare guys that goes into his 40s, I don't really see much more. So Bryce Harper is a Philly. I mean, this is crazy.
It's crazy. He's going to end his career in Philly. I mean,
and they might go get Kimbrel, I heard. So the Phillies are about to drop mad money this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
They went out and they got Andrew McCutchen. They went out and they got Segura. They already had Rhys Hoskins. They traded for Real Muto. Now they got, Bryce Harper is going to be protected in that lineup. So first of all, he's in a healthy batter's park.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're telling me you're giving him support because here's the thing. If he was going to go to like the Padres like Machado is, you can just pitch around that guy. You walk him. And Bryce Harper was getting pissed at that. Going to the Phillies, here's the guys who are pitching around him. Here's the lineup. Andrew McCutchen, Gene Segura, Bryce Harper third. Then after him's Rhys Hoskins and JT Real Muto. You can't walk him because, some way or another, he's protected by two guys in both directions. So even if he's leading off the inning, you're not going to walk him so that you can face Rhys Hoskins with a guy on. You're not just going to give him that. So you're going to have to pitch to him sometimes. So I think it was a smart move on his behalf because going to like the Giants, everybody was saying Giants, but they're not going to compete this year. I don't think they'll do all right. I think they'll win maybe 70 games. They'll pretend to be in the mix at some point this season, but then they're going to fizzle out and they're not going to be in it. And I just don't understand. They also don't have a good prospect team. They don't have a good farm team. So you have to sit there and go, you're going to the Giants who have nobody coming up and they have nobody there. Why would you want to go to that mess for a long-term deal? Yeah, you like the area, but you can go to Philly, which you'll come to love the town, I guess. I mean, it either it grows on you or it grows on you. I mean, it's. I think he'll be fine though, because coming to a hitter's park, Machado went to a fucking pitcher's park. Why would you go to San Diego? His numbers are going to go down. He's going to not look as good, and his career's going to like fizzle, and he's not going to be anything. And here's the other thing: when everybody's like, "Oh, Yankees should get him. Yankees should get him," when you looked at the numbers, he wasn't. His fielding last year was actually worse than Andujar's.
Mm-hmm.
And Andujar, they're like, oh, we got to replace Andujar. We got to replace Andujar, blah, blah. It's like Andujar hits almost as good as Machado, and he's young, so he might mature to be better. And he might mature to be a better fielder. If they can just get him to stop doing a weird chicken arm catch thing, he'll be fine out there. And if he looks good, they added the best defensive shortstop, DJ LeMahieu. And they added Ottavino to the bullpen. They brought back Britton. They brought in a couple other pieces. They got in James Paxton.
Mm-hmm.
They brought J.A. Happ back. The pitching rotation's crazy. CC's their number 5 pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got a guy that good, and CC, everybody's like, oh, well, he's old now. He still pitched like a 3.6, 3.7 ERA in the AL East. 3.7 in the AL East, man, that's hard to do, and it's his last season, so I think he's going to play his mind out. So CC's going to pitch good, and when the rest of the rotation is, you've got, it's going to go from top to bottom. They got Luis Severino, who was a Cy Young. He was the Cy Young until he had a couple bad months toward the end of the season, and then he kind of responded back in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Number 2, Paxton's coming in. Paxton was great last year. And he's been great. Then you've got Tanaka after that. Tanaka's always solid. He's not as good as everybody was hoping he was going to be.
Yeah.
But that's a crazy rotation, a crazy bullpen, and a crazy lineup. I don't think they needed Machado. So sometimes it's smarter to not spend the money realizing, you're going to give this new guy a 10-year deal, and then you're sitting there and it's like, oh, when Aaron Judge's contract runs up, I don't know how we're going to pay you. Like, you got to keep what you got, and I think they played smart with their money, getting DJ LeMahieu, who's a guy who hits 300, and he's the best fielding second baseman. So if you can really have a really good fielding second baseman and he can hit real good, you piece him with a really solid lineup like the Yankees have, especially with their long ball ability. Machado had been nice to add, but Van Duhar comes on as a hitter a little better, and it's like they got Machado. So
yeah, I'm just curious as to, like, with Bryce Harper, if, like, I just wonder, like, I would love to have been a fly on the wall, and, like, I don't know if there was any real good, perfect place for him to have gone, because, you know, I like, deep in my heart, I feel like he's from Nevada. I think he probably, if he had a choice, probably would have wanted to play out west. But I'm not 100% sure there was anything even there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it seemed like apparently the Dodgers were jumping in at the last minute, and I know that sounds great on paper, but the Dodgers already have way too many fielders as it is, so they'd probably say to him, yeah, we'd love to add you, but we probably only give you about $20 million a season, which, I mean, still is a ridiculous amount of money to just throw around, and the Dodgers do it all the time. But if you're sitting there going, it's Bryce Harper, we can add him to our team, why the hell not? We'll talk to him.
Yeah.
But I never thought that they were ever really serious, and that's why it's always interesting to kind of do this, the way sports works out, because you kind of have baseball off season, and then all of a sudden football off season kind of kicks in. And, you know, we only just have these huge signings for baseball, like literally the one just happened, and the other one happened last week. And then all of a sudden we're coming around to football free agency, and we've got, the three big guys are, Nick Foles, Le'Veon Bell, and Antonio Bryant. And I know Antonio Bryant's not a free agent, but they're most likely trading him because they don't really like his attitude. So I think it'll be crazy to see where these guys land. I think we're going to make that jump from baseball to football. We're going to move that free agency, and then we'll come back and talk baseball in a little bit here. Yeah. But where do you think Nick Foles is going to go? So he's free to go wherever. Where should Nick Foles go, and where do you think he's going to go? Do you think those are the same, or?
I don't know why, but I think like he. I know Jacksonville was in the mix. I just feel like they're probably one of the teams that like. They were on the verge just a couple years ago of making the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I think
they were a quarterback away.
They were a quarterback away.
And then they paid Blake Bortles last offseason, which made everybody scratch their head. They're like, he had a couple of good playoff performances, but the first game they won, he threw for like 86 yards. It's just he ended up running for like 96 yards and a touchdown. Honestly, I think probably the best spot for him is probably Jacksonville. Although, honestly, I'd love to see him go to the Giants. Especially, here's the scenario. Here's something crazy, which I don't think this is too out of the realm. Giants, Eli wants to keep playing. Tom Coughlin loves Eli. Tom Coughlin's at the Jaguars. Tom Coughlin gives the Giants a call and says, hey, if you get that Nick Foles guy, you give us a call. So all of a sudden, Giants pick up the phone. They talk with Nick Foles. They get an offer ready for him for what they think he's worth. I think I hear people saying 3 years, $19 million a year. So like about a $60 million deal.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing things like, well, what could the Giants get for Eli? I mean, at this point, I don't see there being a lot, being that he's a late 30s quarterback in the NFL, which usually they're on a decline. I mean, it's not Eli's fault that he hasn't been great the last couple of years. The offensive line's been terrible. And just 3 years ago, Eli was pretty good. He led the Giants to 11-5, and they were in the playoffs. Yeah. So, I mean, but you could say, oh, well, he's done now. But he hasn't had protection, and Odell's hurt every other game. And like last season, there was one point where his top 4 receivers were on the IR. So, like, he's out there chucking guys who were your mechanic last week. So, I can't blame Eli too much, but I think he needs to go somewhere where he could be successful. I think he could do that with Jacksonville. I think he goes down there where he's got a running game to hand on to, which he has that with the Giants, but Jacksonville has a decent offensive line. They have an amazing defense. Yeah. That'll help Eli. And you know how he won 2 Super Bowls? Amazing defense, decent enough offensive line, and a couple plays here and there.
Yeah. Well, I just wonder if he's not, like, it's really weird, but I have this feeling that he might come back to Philly.
So you think, like, all along the Eagles are like, we're going to let you go?
Well, and you're already done that once, and
here's what they should do. They should be like, Nick, you're gone, and then they trade Carson Wentz away, pick up Foles.
I doubt that'll happen, but I don't know. It just
Eagles are already over cap, so they got to dump stuff. So they gotta.
Well, who's to say? Like I hate to say this, but like, who's to say that the Eagles are actually going to be good, really good, as everybody's predicting?
Mm-hmm.
You know, just because like we have a lot of great.
Like
players,
young talent, yeah.
It doesn't mean that. I mean, look. The roster was injured last year,
yeah.
And they had a similar roster as they did when they went to the Super Bowl, and they barely made the playoffs and lost in the second round.
Well, and here's the thing: and Carson Wentz kept starting until the end of the season. They wouldn't have made the playoffs.
Yeah,
they were not looking too good, and
if they go 9-7 or 8-8, they're gonna clean some. They're going to clean some closets. Like, I mean,
I don't think so. Usually, if you win a Super Bowl with a team, they're going to give you a lot of, especially Philadelphia is known to just turn on somebody in a blink of an eye. And
Chip Kelly.
Chip Kelly he thought the best way to make a football team was rather than trying to build something, it's like, we don't need foundation. We need quality players. So he just went out and just like made all the roster moves, changed every single player, told everybody who was there they weren't good enough, and then they got new players.
Kind of sounds like someone we know.
He's like, we don't need LaShawn McCoy. We don't need Jeremy Maclin. Deshaun Jackson, bye. We need my players. And my players, we don't need running backs. We don't need like, you know what's interesting though? Like, think about it. Like, the Eagles haven't had like a top tier running back since they traded LaShawn McCoy away. Like, there's a whole lot of positions where the Eagles are like, yeah, wow, it took us forever to fill these voids we had. It's like, wait, weren't they filled from the guys we had? Oh yeah, and then Chip Kelly's like, rather not. Oh. Yeah, no, it's just so funny to me that Eagles are going to let Nick Foles walk away. And who knows? He might go out there and he might be a Case Keenum story where next season he goes out there and he can't do anything and they don't put numbers up and whatever. But, I mean, honestly, Case Keenum stunk this season because he didn't have a good coach. They didn't have a good game plan, and they traded his number 2 receiver mid-season, like the trade deadline, obviously. So they lost him, and then ACL tear down the back stretch for his number 1 receiver. So he was out there throwing to a rookie as his number 1 for half the season. So I don't know that we can put it all on Case Keenum, but I don't. Nick Foles fits Doug Peterson's system. Carson Wentz doesn't. Carson Wentz is an amazing talent who could do whatever you tell him to do, but Nick Foles wins games with Doug Peterson.
Do you think this is a mistake?
I think the Eagles should go with Nick Foles, and I know it's like, oh, well, you have a small sample size. Yeah, you have a small sample size of him winning a lot, him winning a Super Bowl, the thing the Eagles had never done. His winning percentage is much better than Carson Wentz. The Carson Wentz gets more yards in a game. Carson Wentz completes a higher percentage of his passes. Yeah, there's some stats where Carson Wentz looks really good at, and I know he's got a pair of legs on him, so he can make a couple plays. But we're talking about, here's a guy with a history of injuries, with an ACL tear in his knee, and he has now a lower back problem. And he got the lower back problem because he was trying to play, not trying to hurt his knee. Now he's going to be out there trying to not hurt both those things. And the next thing is going to get hurt. And all of a sudden, Carson Wentz is that used car that the Eagles are trying to dump off to try and get some collateral back. And now the Eagles are in 10 years of darkness because they're don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Nick Foles is sitting here. He's only 29 years old. So he's probably got, 6-7 years left. We're talking about a guy who took your team to a Super Bowl and won it against the greatest dynasty in football history.
Mm-hmm.
Best coach and best quarterback of all time. You beat them. In the craziest game ever with all these yards. Tom Brady threw for 500 yards and you win. And you have all these things go for this guy. And you're just going to ship him off and go with this young guy who gets hurt all the time. It's just hard for me to believe that's the right decision to make. Yeah. And he, you can say, well, we had a commitment to him. Patriots had a commitment to Drew Bledsoe. He was a $100 million contract guy. He had the biggest contract ever at the time, a 10-year, $100 million deal. And you know what the Patriots did? They went, this Tom Brady guy won us a Super Bowl. He's going to keep on giving us a chance to do it. They went with him. They traded Bledsoe, and they got a bunch back. Eagles are going to end up getting nothing for Foles. They could have gotten the house for Carson Wentz. And here's the thing. You know whether or not he's a broken record or not at this point. If you're the Eagles, you know more about his medical history than anybody else.
Yeah.
You could have dealt him off to somebody else, got some capital in return, and then you're sitting there with Nick Foles, a guy who's quality and can do some stuff. You get something quality back for Carson Wentz. Your team's rebounding and looking at a Super Bowl run next year. Mm-hmm. Instead, you're saying, well, we hope Wentz is good next year, which is the same thing people said last year.
Yeah.
And then it's also the fact that the fans, everybody loves Nick Foles, and everybody thinks it's a mistake that they're letting him go and they're sticking with Wentz. And sometimes you got to listen to the people, Now, I'm not saying I think Nick Foles is, the best quarterback in the league and Carson Wentz is just trash and it's such a dumb idea. No, I think Carson Wentz has a lot of talent.
What do you think is a bigger deal? The Phillies signing Bryce Harper or the Eagles losing Nick Foles?
Definitely Harper, because the Phillies, you go back 2 years ago, they won 67 games.
Mm-hmm.
You go back a couple of years before that, the Phillies had a stretch 3 or 4 years in a row where they were the worst team in baseball.
Yeah.
And they've been terrible since Ryan Howard tore his ACL in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
When that happened, their dynasty thing just crumbled, and by 2013 they were terrible and they've just stayed there.
Mm-hmm.
Last year they were a lot better than everybody thought they were going to be. But looking at this season, Phillies are all built up to make a run this year. They're trying to do it. Now, if they can't do it this year, then it's shit. Because, when I say they went all in this offseason,
just imagine, though.
They won the offseason because you're sitting here going, they added Bryce Harper. They got David Robertson from the Yankees, who's a good quality. He might be their closer. I don't know the Phillies bullpen that well, but you're adding that quality of a stud in there. You're adding let's see, they might get Kimbrel, which I'm hearing, I'm okay, but then I also hear they got Segura in, they added JT Realmuto. The Phillies added a lot. Now they did get rid of a bunch of prospects to make their team this quality, but I just have to sit here and go, the Phillies were looking pretty good last year, and then they kind of sputtered, fell apart, and finished 80-82. This year, if they don't finish with at least 90 wins, it's a failure for a season, I think.
I can't imagine, I don't know. It's almost like, if you think about it, it's like signing a contract back into grade school again. Seriously, just think about that, 13 years in Philly. That depends on,
Yeah.
That's a long time to be in one city.
Yeah, well, you know what? A big deal like that,
I would be, honestly...
It's a life changer,
It's a life changer. And the thing is think about that, by year, 4, you might get tired of the city. That's the...
he's been coming up a lot, though, with Washington, the Nationals and stuff. So he's been to Citizens Bank Park a lot. So he knows the park and he knows stuff. I think that had to play somewhat of a factor.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny that he's going to be playing the Nationals quite a bit this season, and he's going to go down there. He's going to get booed so bad. They're going to be like, "You chose somebody."
If he had gone out to L.A., probably Philly would have booed him.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say this. I mean, I think the Phillies could make a run at like 94, 95 wins this year. Like, I think they got that much better. Now, all their guys had to gel. And see, here's the other thing. I don't think they made their rotation any better. So,
I think they
have an amazing pitcher in Aaron Nola, and they have Arrieta. So your top two guys are great, and then it's like, who else do you have?
Well, just remember, it kind of reminds me of, and this is completely different, but it kind of reminds me when LeBron James went from Cleveland to Miami. Like the first year, everybody was expecting him to like. I think like
not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5.
But the thing is though, like I'm not sure in this first year they're gonna make the playoffs. But to win the first year, I think that's hard to establish that in 1 year.
Oh, for the Phillies, yeah. I mean, they brought all these guys in, and
next year.
Well, yeah, they got to gel. And here's the thing: if all of a sudden they don't gel, it's like, oh, now we got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: they've got, I mean. They have a hell of a catcher. You've got a whole bunch of these great pieces. And now it's like,
don't get injured.
All right. Well, it's also you guys got to hit, and they got all these young pieces, but you never are quite sure. I mean, I remember when the Yankees got A.J. Burnett. I'm like, oh, he's going to be a big part of this team, and then he ended up being a meh pitcher. Now, when the Yankees, I remember that was a big offseason because they got CC and A.J. Burnett, and they're like, we're adding 2 guys to our rotation. These guys are going to take over. We're going to win. And then A.J. Burnett ended up just being a meh pitcher. Mm-hmm. He had like a 4.6 ERA, which in the AL East isn't bad. But, I mean, they brought him in hoping he was going to be like a low 3 ERA guy, and he wasn't what he was. But they won the World Series that year, so I guess it – because it was it was late 2008, and then they won 2009. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's going to take I really think it's going to take some time. I mean, I mean,
well, hell, look, the Yankees, they've had their core guys that are on this team that kind of started the turnaround of the Yankees a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. But like we're talking Aaron Judge and all these dudes. It takes a while. So, Phillies, they might win their division just from the pure sake of the fact that I don't know if there's any other team in there that has as stacked of a batting lineup.
Do you know who their opening day is against, and do you know who the first team they're playing this year is?
I'd have to check.
But I think you're going to really find out within the first probably couple weeks what you've got and what you don't have. I'm not let's put it this way. I don't follow baseball that closely, but I'm up on what's going on, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll all probably fall together, but it just may not be right away. And whenever this kind of stuff happens, everybody's expecting such big things right away, and you just can't.
You can't just expect it. Yeah, I mean, well, just like I know Lakers fans are going through that. They're like, we got LeBron, we're going to do it this year. And right now they're in 10th place, and they're not even in the playoffs. Is LeBron going to help the team? It's funny because you can tell that the Cavaliers are definitely worse. I mean, let's look. The Cavaliers are what, 14-47. So, last year they were not 14-47. They were in the finals where they lost to Golden State, but...
You know what would be wild is if Kyrie left Boston and went to L.A.
Ooh.
That'd be kind of wild.
That would be wild. You think that would happen? He left because he didn't want to be with LeBron anymore.
I don't know.
Well, he wanted to prove he could do it himself, and now... Boston's doing pretty good. They're in the playoffs, but they're the 5 seed, but they were supposed to be, legit this year, and... They lost a game a couple of days ago where they got their butts handed to them by...
Toronto, I think?
No, it was some really bad team. Was it the Bulls? Yeah, it was the Bulls. The Bulls, they're way down there. They're 13th in the East, which there's 15 teams in the East.
Yeah.
So if you're 13th out of 15, you're not doing so hot. But yeah, no, they got their butt whooped by them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's... honestly, I think it's either the Bucks, Raptors, or Pacers. 76ers and Celtics can kind of prove it, but for right now, I guess I think it's probably Bucks, Raptors, Pacers in the East. Then in the West, I mean, it seems close with like the Warriors, the Nuggets, Thunder, but I mean, unless anybody can really prove it, Golden State's the favorite. I mean, like,
well, I mean,
they've been so dominant for so long now. You gotta figure they're gonna just keep doing it.
It's gonna, like I said the last podcast, I think it's gonna depend on what the East can do. The
Bucks are playing out of their mind. I mean, they're 47-14.
Yeah, but just because a team is so good that way doesn't mean that they're gonna.
Well, yeah,
they're not gonna just.
Here's the thing: playoff time comes around. You've got Golden State, who's been there every year for the last 5 years, and then everybody else. I mean,
yeah,
you got to just. I mean, at this point, I'd say put your money on Golden State. But meanwhile, in hockey, you're just playing like a pinball machine. Like, you never know how hockey's gonna go because hockey. I mean, a puck goes one certain way, team wins 3-2, but it should have gone to overtime, and then maybe the better team would have won, kind of thing. You get all kinds of surprises. I know in the NHL, the Tampa Bay Lightning are like the best team in the league. They're playing out of their mind, and then everybody else is doing all right, but. Can Tampa Bay do it in the playoffs? I remember how many years in a row the Capitals were just this dominant force in the regular season. They'd get to the playoffs, and then they couldn't get out of the second round. And then it's very possible that Tampa Bay goes all out, balls out, finishes with all these points, gets to the playoffs, gets knocked out in the first round, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, season's over. I mean... It's so crazy how, with NHL, fantasy playoffs are coming next week. So the regular season's ending here. So we're pretty decently far in. I know I took a look at the standings earlier today, and it's an interesting thing. A lot of things are still close. So, I mean... You have the Lightning, who are like by far the best team. They have 102 points, but then it's like Bruins with 82, Maple Leafs with 82, Canadians with 75. You got the Islanders with 79, Capitals with 79, Hurricanes and Penguins with 74, Preds with 79, Jets with 78, Blues with 74, Flames with 89, Sharks with 82, Knights with 71. So it's not this, Tampa Bay is going to take it. I mean, they're ahead. But, I mean, it's yet to be seen. I mean, for a team to be 49-11-4 in hockey, it's kind of crazy to see because usually, like, this point in the season, Bruins with 83 points, I'd say it's like, oh, yeah, they're, like, the best team. But, Tampa Bay is just playing out of their mind.
I think Alex really likes Tampa Bay.
This season, I would say I think they have a good chance. I'm with my Capitals.
Tell your audience how you really feel, Alex. I understand.
Until the season's over, I'm a Capitals fan until the final second. I mean, I always think they're gonna have a shot now.
Alex's favorite team is the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Oh no! Don't tell them lies. Young grasshopper. Oh. No. The Penguins fucking suck, man. I fucking hate them, man. What are you doing? What do you mean? Like I'm some kind of funny guy? What? Okay. I'm Mark Wahlberg. I got blankets. I got Bud Light. It's great in here. Yo, join me. It's a bubble bath. It's like, and now we have a lawsuit. And moving on. The one big thing, I took a look at stats. Ovechkin's sitting at a nice, healthy career goal number 651. And by the end of the season here, I mean, he might have a shot next year at making 700 goals, which that's a big milestone. I mean, only 6 guys have ever done it. And this is an era where goal scoring's been down for the most part. So it's kind of crazy to think that, Ovechkin has a chance to join an elusive club, and then by the end of things, I mean, a season after that, he might be sitting in third or fourth place. And if he keeps playing this good for a couple more years, I'm not saying he's going to pass Gretzky because that's 894. But, I mean, if Ovechkin has a few more solid years, he might be well up there. I mean, I don't think it's out of the question, but I don't think it's just funny because when you hear people talk, you always hear Crosby this, Crosby that. He can make some plays, and he gets a lot of assists, and I mean, I think Crosby's a hell of a player. I think he's a cheap player, and I think Philadelphia fans would agree with me, and other Metro fans, they'd be like, yeah, he'll hack you, you'll turn around to fight him, and then he'll be like, oh my God, he attacked me, oh my God, did you see that? He hit me, give me a penalty. But he's got some skill, and I got to give him credit, but they always talk about him, and it's because he's Canadian. He's like this big Canadian star. Meanwhile, Ovechkin's got the best shot I ever seen in my life, and they never give him enough credit because they don't want to give credit to this Russian guy, And I think I think it's kind of sad because Ovechkin's been so good for so long, and I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
Alex, are you Russian? Yes.
The silence is yes. No, so no, I just think it's unfortunate. Yeah. So, speaking of Russians, spring training for baseball. Completely unrelated. So, baseball's back. It started up. We got some games rolling, so that's cool. We got Bryce Harper to the Phillies. We've got Yankees, Red Sox. Will be interesting to see this year because that was a great battle between them last year, and Yankees got better and the Red Sox got worse. I'm not not saying anything, but the Red Sox suck and I hate them. So no, I think it's gonna be crazy. I think it's gonna be a lot like last year. I think the Yankees will find a way to take this year for baseball. I'm hoping they do, but
just for those who are listening, Alex is a Yankees fan.
I'm a Yankees fan. I'm a biased asshole. But so we also have so I kind of came up with something. I thought it was funny. MLB Network the other night, they were kind of talking about Barry Bonds, and they were going into some of his stuff, and somebody had said something, and it was kind of like about how, oh yeah, it was kind of crazy how Barry Bonds hit all those home runs as a lefty at where he was at Giant Stadium, because like people just don't hit home runs, especially being a lefty in Giant Stadium. They said the top home run hitter over the last so many years for a lefty there was like 8 home runs. And like Barry Bonds hit 73 homers in a season. It's like, could you imagine if he played for the Colorado Rockies, which they play on elevation, and they have statistically they get better numbers there. Now, Barry Bonds would moonshot it as it was. I'm just saying, you get Barry Bonds in there, I mean, he'd have hit 100 homers in a season. Yeah. But Barry Bonds is one of those stories where I think him and Roger Clemens and all those roid guys are going to get in the Hall of Fame eventually, but they're going to kind of get put in like the Hall of Shame kind of area. They're going to be like, you're in the Hall of Fame, but we're going to talk about your steroid use. And it's like alleged steroid use, thank you. But I do think looking at some sleepers for baseball this season, I think the Reds could be a lot better than people are giving them credit for. They made a few changes. They got Yasiel Puig and Matt Kemp from the Dodgers, and those are some quality players. Plus, they already had some really good members. The Mets added Cano, and that always is enough to help. And I think they added some other guys, too. Phillies, as I already said, I think they have a chance to win that division. I think there's a good chance.
Are you certain about that?
Yeah. Sure? I'm seeing the Tampa Bay Rays right now because they started playing pretty good last year at spots, and they found a way to make that opener thing work where we're going to use a whole bunch of our bullpen. We're going to make them work, and we're going to get the wins. But I think they'll surprise some people, but I'm not sure. If you're in a division with the Yankees and the Red Sox, the way they looked last year, and with the Yankees looking even better, I think you can pretty much just I don't think the Rays are going to win it this year. I'll put it that way. I think they have a chance at a wild card. That's what they'll be fighting for. And then White Sox, they got better, and they got a lot of young guys coming up. And then the Padres, you had a guy like Manny Machado. It's going to help you. How much it will, we'll see. But not sure Machado was worth the money, because you look at his defensive stats from shortstop, and he wasn't actually really that good last year. Now, Bryce Harper was also a below-average fielder last year when he was normally a good one, so...
Nothing is ever certain, but one thing is certain right now is that I'm hungry for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but...
Oh, yeah? You want peanut butter jelly? That's like Bryce Harper, man. He's gonna peanut butter jelly that home run out of the park. See, I tried to make it work, Cameron, but you're feeding me these weak-ass things. No, I think it's a big surprise that Craig Kimbrell's still on the market as a big-time reliever, but I think he'll find a destination. I heard the Phillies are going to talk with him after they signed Harper, so...
That already happened, by the way.
Yeah, Harper, man. So how about Brad Keselowski?
Well...
winning that race when he's sick. Man.
Congrats to him.
Congrats.
But
your favorite, Brad Keselowski.
But seriously, though, where the heck was Ryan Blaney, man? I really wanted him to win. But, sorry. I mean, it was good for him, good for the sport. I mean, I think there's going to come a point where I think the sport's going to start to come around. There was a good turnout at that race. I don't know if anybody saw the stands, but hey, for someone who's looking to go to a race this year, maybe Watkins Glen.
Oh, I've never been up there. I've only ever gone to Dover.
Yeah, but Truex ran him down from 2 seconds back. I mean, he was coming, but not meant to be.
Brad K says no. You heard it first here. Now, do you like some of the NASCAR rule changes with the more downforce? Because I know they were talking about how it was a lower powered, more downforce, closer racing, and then everybody's like, oh, well, there's going to be all these crashes, and then that didn't happen.
I don't really pay attention to that kind of stuff, honestly. I don't really when I'm watching. If I'm watching even the highlights, I don't really pay attention to who's really how the car is really racing. It's kind of just one of those things that I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
But there was a time in the sport 15 years ago when I don't know. There was you actually. I'm not certain because I don't know all the rule changes and whatnot, but I think there was a time where you actually had to. I think it's much easier now with the technology than it was years ago.
Yeah.
You actually had to pick your way through the pack a little bit harder than you do nowadays. You'll see somebody go from 31st and then they'll be up to 5th in 20 laps. And you're like, how did that happen? But a couple years, 15, 20, 30 years ago, man, if you were starting 31st, man, you had some work to do. You had to race people to get to the front.
Crash them and get around.
But I don't know. There's not a lot of people up north that watch it, so probably people on your podcast are like,
No, people, you'd be surprised. There are a lot of people. It's interesting. I think NASCAR's got a weird demographic because there's a lot of people who are really just into racing and stuff who are into it, and then there's kind of the down south Rubbins racing and the mud racing, and then you got some people who just like to watch something go fast and hear the loud engines, Well, I know people that doesn't matter what happens to the sport, they'll just watch it because they like the aspect of building a race car and racing it. The sport was formed on basically stock cars. You'd take a car to the track and you'd race it. Yep.
You'd race what you had, which is different than it is now, but I think the people that still watch the sport are watching it because of the racing aspect itself, the competitive side of it.
Yeah.
it differs. It varies. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because
you and I watch the sport. Let's make that clear. Like, both of us watch the sport.
Yeah.
We went to high school together and we talked about it all the time. So like, it was just one of those things.
And then Mr. Wren. Shout out.
Yeah.
If you're listening.
But no, yeah. But even like when we watched in high school, it changed. Like
it's different. They added a lot of different rule changes stuff, which I guess is a good thing because I know I've heard a bunch of people kind of talking about it and how they like it and how it adds some different elements so that there's some spots now where people are like battling for a spot heavy, every chunk of laps rather than, I just am going to carry on the last lap. Now people are like, oh, I'm trying to be conscious the whole time. So
yeah. Well, the whole aspect of it's changed. Like
now they have the when you're in chase system and
that, but also there's like you can't position yourself. Like when they didn't have stage rules, like you'd have to actually legitimately pick when you were going to pit and figure out your fuel mileage and how you were going to find your way to if you're coming from the back to the front. You had to figure out how to pretty much pick your spots. But now that you have stage racing, you have a caution after the stage. After I'll explain it a little bit more to those that don't really understand. Each race has 3 segments. So it's divided up into different portions of the race. So if there's like a 350 laps or 360, let's go like that. You'll have like a 90 lap race, another 90 lap, and like 120. It was like something like that and after that segment you get points. But at that end of that segment, the cars can go pit. Where like years ago, you never had the segments, so you'd have to either pit on a green flag run, like when everybody's racing, or pit under caution. Or hope someone gets a caution, or hope somebody wrecks, and that's one thing that I miss about the sport is that there's the unpredictability of it's nothing is certain,
Yeah.
Now like it's planned, like you can guarantee that they're gonna bunch the field up after 80 laps, where like there were races where there wasn't even a caution till like lap 180, and like everybody had to pit on, had green flag pit stops and shuffled the field.
Some of the problem though, I can understand. One of the big problems, like I know when I went to Dover one time, just Jimmy Johnson racing out in front the whole there was a stretch of probably about 100 laps where it was nothing, nobody moved, nobody changed position. It was just everybody driving around, and it was like.
And the thing is too is I don't think you can actually make racing really, really, really exciting. Like the way that I think maybe people want it to be.
Yeah.
I think when it was really exciting was when you had to race back to the caution flag. Like we're talking years ago, like where you had nowadays when there's a caution, you can't race. They used to, like if you were coming off of turn 1 and there was a caution, they threw the caution flag, you had to race all the way back to the start-finish line to get your position. Yeah. So anybody could take positions from you from turn 1 to turn 4 and coming back to the start-finish line. I thought that was great racing.
Yeah.
There was never any overtimes. There was never any of that kind of stuff. You just when it hit the 500th mile, it would end under caution. Like if you had a crash, you would end the race under caution. So that's the stuff I enjoyed.
Did you like the ending on a caution, though?
I did.
Why?
Because it was more genuine.
Okay.
Because I think when you stack up the field and you put people...
Well, did you watch Daytona? How many crashes because they're like, oh, let's go race...
But you think about it, though, like really honestly, if you actually ended it on a caution, it's actually more safer than having people bunch up and start on a restart. If you're really looking at the safety changes. And that's the old rule book of racing. Like I think a couple years ago, I think still IndyCar did that. Yeah. I don't remember. Yeah. I'm gonna get off my soapbox, but I just follow the sport very closely. That's all.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see where that season goes. I think just a couple more things to touch up on here. So for Foles, I'm saying he's going to go to either the Giants or the Jags.
I'm going to say he's going to go with the Jags. Okay. But I also think there's a possibility that he might retire in Philly. That's what I think.
Okay. How about Le'Veon Bell? You think he's going Eagles, Raiders, Patriots? Bill Belichick's never been afraid to take an attitude player, especially one that can help his team out, and he's used to using a lot of different running backs. I know Le'Veon Bell said he didn't want to carry the full load, so New England's not a terrible spot for him.
I mean, maybe. I don't.
I don't think the Patriots are never one to drop huge money on free agents though, because they give Tom Brady your mechanic as a wide receiver rather than But I think the Raiders have a good chance of Le'Veon Bell because Raiders are known to do dumb money, and they stunk last year. They're trying to turn their franchise around. He's the kind of player who could do it, and they already have Marshawn Lynch, so it's a nice duo. Antonio Bryant trade. I really could see just about anywhere. I mean, again, Patriots have a need, but the Patriots always have a need at receiver. They never
pretty much say the Patriots are never out of anything.
The Patriots, hey, Tom Brady's on the field. They always got a shot. It could be 115-0 with a second left on the clock. Tom Brady has a shot in that game. No, I'm joking, but no, I'm not joking. Tom Brady really is that good. Taking a look to soccer, I kind of put a line on here for like everything, and then soccer, it's kind of funny. It's my soccer line. So just really quickly, the English Premier League. The English, not English.
I'm going to let you take care of this because I have no idea what you're...
So right now, the standings are Liverpool with 16... Oh, wow. My body does not want me to finish this. Liverpool's got 69 points. Manchester City at 68. Tottenham Hotspur with 60. Arsenal with 56. And Manchester United with 55. All of the teams are within 14 points. There's not that much of the season left, but there's... I mean, the top, I could see moving. I don't see, United and Arsenal are kind of out at this point. City obviously is in it because they're only a point behind. But that really could go anyway. And usually a lot of those games you can catch on like a Saturday and Sunday morning on like the NBC networks and stuff. We also got Bundesliga where they're on Fox. So that's Borussia Dortmund with 54, Bayern Munich with 51, Borussia Mönchengladbach 43, we got Leipzig 42, Wolfsburg with 38. That's a pretty close bunch, but it's really going to be Dortmund, Munich. It's kind of how it looks just about every year. They're going to be the ones really going at it. France, League One, Saint-Germain, Paris Saint-Germain, they're always going to be toward the top, and they're well at first. Serie A, Ronaldo is Juventus. They're in first by 13 points. They're doing just fine. Ronaldo has 19 goals, which is a little down from where he was, but, new team, new location, tax fraud behind him. I think he's, that's not too bad of numbers. And then La Liga, without Ronaldo, it's kind of Barca's season to lose, but you got Barca with 57, Atletico Madrid with 50, and Real Madrid with 48. Real still got a good squad, and Atletico Madrid still got a good squad. I'm not going to diss them, but when you have Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez, you're going to have a good squad there. You're going to be fine. So it's always interesting to see. Soccer has so many different leagues, so much different things going on at the same time. There's usually a lot of different championships and stuff. So soccer is a sport where there's a whole lot of it out there. And if you're from Europe, it's football. So we love all of our listeners. So just a little bit of that. And then outside of that, I think the only thing I missed was I was going to just talk about with the NHL. There's two things. Okay, so the LA Kings had signed Ilya Kovalchuk. It was a big deal. He came back from the KHL. He's coming back from Russia after, I think he played 5 seasons overseas. And he did really good. He ended up winning 2 championships, put a lot of points up, and he came back. And now this season he's been kind of He's missed some games. He's only got 28 points in 53 games, so he's a little bit on the disappointing side there. And the LA Kings are one of the worst teams in hockey this year, so I think they're going to look to rebound next year. But so I had missed that. And then also, I found out Jaromir Jagr played the other night. He played a hockey game at 47 years old. Now, apparently it was a team he bought over in the Czech Republic, and he still wants to play and coach and do all these things. And hell, great to hear that. It's just, I know it's funny when Tom Brady keeps telling everybody he wants to play till he's 45, and everyone's like, oh, there's no way. Well, Jaromir Jagr's playing at 47. So, you got that.
I don't know.
Oh, breaking news. Nick Foles signs with, no, really? The answer will be told next week.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Well,
No, I'm joking.
Well,
No, it's going to be like 2 weeks because NFL free agency doesn't officially open. Although I was looking at the NFL free agency, and apparently teams are already allowed to like talk with players and stuff. They're allowed to talk contracts. Kareem Hunt signed with the Browns. The guy who got in trouble with the Chiefs, who like grabbed his girlfriend, threw her in the wall or whatever. So he got released immediately, and now apparently the Browns are like, if he doesn't go to jail, we'll take him. So that's an interesting one. I mean, I guess from a business standpoint, you're sitting there going, he was a Pro Bowl running back until he got TMZ video, until that TMZ video came out, so... But I think the funny thing about that was apparently the Chiefs had known about it for months, but they were like, that's always a weird situation. You never know what you'd do during it, I guess, but I find it hard to believe that if you as a team found out that he did this stuff and you saw video proof, that you'd just be like, well, we'll let the season play out. We'll try for our championship. It's like, oh... Wow. But then on the flip side, it's like I've never been in that position, so I really don't know.
Alex, you're not a football player.
Oh.
But neither am I.
I'm the greatest football player, thank you. But yeah, wow.
Play for the Bundesliga.
Yeah. I think it was a crazy week in the sports, and I think it was a nice kind of recap. I think I do like doing kind of a recap of like how some of these leagues are looking. I'm going to try and do that a little bit more organized. But I think this week we tackle a lot of big things. Do
you have any questions? Do you want to give your audience? Maybe your audience wants to.
Yeah. Okay. I got a couple questions. Where do you guys see Nick Foles landing? I think that'd be cool to see where you guys think he's going. How about Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Bryant? Will the Lakers make the playoffs? Who's winning the NBA championship? Who's winning the Stanley Cup? Will Ovechkin hit 700 goals? Who's going to win the World Series this year? Who's your team? Are you glad to have baseball back? Are you ready for this NASCAR season? Who are you rooting for in soccer?
Did you get all that?
Did you get all that? You got to answer all that, or don't answer any one specific thing. That'd just be bad.
How about you just pick one of them?
Yeah. How about this? Answer anything and everything you want to.
Alex is going to grade it on a curve, by the way. He's going to give back his your midterm scores.
If you put Red Sox, you'll lose, so... I'm joking.
No, he's not.
Joking.
He's not really joking.
I love you, Red Sox fans. No, I don't.
You're going to get a lot of hate mail.
Oh, hey, remember when it was like 100 years between World Series? Yeah, Pepperidge Farms remembers. No, it was what, like 86 years between championships, I think, for the Red Sox? Something like that. They traded Babe Ruth way back when, and then they didn't win till 04, and then they won in 07, and then they won, 2013, and then they win last year?
Why don't you tell us all how you really feel, Alex, about the Red Sox?
All these horrible things, like Red Sox winning World Series, and then the Yankees only have, since 2000. Well, they won in 2000. They should have won in 2001, but it was a crazy series. 2001 was a crazy World Series. I remember, looking back at that one. There's all kinds of highlights and stuff. The Yankees were up in Game 7. Mariano Rivera came in the 8th inning, shut him down, came out there in the 9th, and he didn't
shut him down? Is that what you were going to say?
He didn't shut him down.
It's all right.
And then the Red Sox won World Series. It's just not fair. I hate them so much. Oh, my God. No, I'm just...
No,
it's all okay now. It's all okay.
Alex doesn't like the Red Sox, but he likes the Patriots.
What? Don't put words in my mouth. What kind of lies? No, I respect Tom Brady. That's what it is.
He likes Tom Brady.
I respect greatness. No, I just think it's cool that we had like a player that caliber for football. I mean, like, I miss those Brady Manning matchups, man. Those used to get me so hyped, man. That was like having another Super Bowl. So any season where you got like two of them, got a regular season and a postseason matchup between them, you knew it was going to be a terrific game. And, I mean, yeah. That's the episode.
Yep. Well,
guys, we're glad you stayed to this point and you heard the whole episode. That's great. So if you want to hear more, why don't you hit that subscribe button? Yeah. Please like the video because we need likes, comments, subscribes so we can prove we're worthy to women. This is the only way I can define myself.
that's how Alex feels. Just hit the subscribe button, hit the like button,
hit the like button, and comment.
If you want to comment and let us know how you thought about the podcast, let us know. And if you want to answer any of Alex's long-winded questions, you can do so. Thank you very much. This is Cameron signing out.
And this is Alex. Toodles.